Welcome to the Mercy Flight Central Detecting Aircraft Tampering program. This program is a collaboration of the aviation, clinical, maintenance, and safety departments. From a young age, many people are drawn to airplanes. Simply walking down a concourse at any major airport, you can see both children and adults in awe at the aircraft outside the plate glass windows. Many people enjoy coming out to seeing the newest and most interesting aircraft at air shows all over the world. In St. Martin, one of the tourist attractions is the beach right at the end of the international airport. Spectators line up to watch the arrivals and departures all day long. This KLM 747 is only about 20 feet above the onlookers. Truly an awesome picture, but I'm not quite sure I'd want to be the one standing under it at this point. Aircraft tampering is not a new problem. This article from the Minneapolis Star from 1985 speaks about getting the FBI involved in an investigation at Northwest Airlines in which they detected tampering on several of their aircraft on the ramp in Minneapolis. In the mid-2010s, a computer hacker claimed to have been able to control the engines on a Boeing aircraft using the Wi-Fi on the aircraft itself. This individual had flown as a passenger and said basically that he had been able to hack into the control system of the airliner through the Wi-Fi, and that at least on one occasion he was able to command one engine to increase its thrust. The FBI had investigated that, and the results of that investigation have been kept pretty quiet. In 2018, an Alaska airline employee stole a twin turboprop from the SeaTac International Airport, and after about a 45-minute joyride, crashed the aircraft into an uninhabited island in Puget Sound, killing himself, and thankfully no others. Finally, in 2019, a teenager trying to get to a concert in Chicago decided that it would be a pretty good idea to try to steal this American Eagle CRJ. He was quoted as saying to the investigators that he thought that all it would take to fly the airplane was pushing a few buttons and pulling a few levers. Aircraft security here at MFC is a thing, and we want to make sure that we do everything that we can to keep our aircraft secure at all times. Some best practice guidelines with respect to aircraft security are: park in a secure area whenever possible, maintain video surveillance when available, and if neither of those are possible, post a crew member to ensure that no tampering takes place. We often invite guests to see our aircraft at PR events and other times in which we fly the aircraft out to demonstrate the capabilities and the medical equipment. It's just important to make sure that we keep a personnel with the aircraft at all times, just to make sure that an overzealous onlooker doesn't do something to the aircraft, either unintentionally or intentionally, that could ultimately be troublesome at a later time. Be aware of the surroundings. This is just a general comment about situational awareness. Try to make sure when you've got the aircraft outside that you're aware of any people or vehicles in the vicinity of the aircraft. If someone appears to be close or interacting with the aircraft in an unescorted fashion, use caution when approaching them, but ask them to move away from the aircraft and see if you can dispatch them if possible. If at any point in time someone who's near an MFC asset becomes belligerent or disobedient, immediately call airport security or the police. Looking for possible aircraft tampering is something that should be ingrained in all of us and something that we do as we approach the aircraft prior to any flight. As you approach the aircraft, look for signs of possible tampering from a broad perspective. As you approach the aircraft, does everything look right? Is there any unexpected fraud in the area? Are any of the doors, cowlings, or windows open or somehow unlatched? Has the power cord been detached? Or are there any signs of fluid or other contaminants on the hull of the aircraft, the dolly, or on the ground? We're going to do a little sample walk around right now and look for signs of tampering on this aircraft outside of KIUA. During your walk around, look for tampering in the following places. After approaching the aircraft, you see the left cockpit door is unlatched and ajar. Did you leave it that way? Note that the seatbelt is also hanging down outside the door. If you see something like this, notify the PIC of your discovery. Continuing the walk around, careful inspection of the cowling shows that one of the latches is up. Was this simply a case of vibration that loosened the latch on the last flight? Was the pilot or one of the maintainers under the cowling? Or was an intruder in the area tampering with the aircraft? Make sure you bring this discovery to the PIC. Continuing the walk around, you notice that the latch on the fuel cap appears open. Was the aircraft just fueled? Does there appear to be any liquids or solid substances on the hull or the dolly? While certainly you want to close the latch and continue your walk around, you want to bring this finding to the PIC. It may be nothing, but we don't want to simply ignore a possible sign of tampering, assuming that it was simply an oversight by someone who fueled the aircraft last. The pilot may be the one who fueled that aircraft several hours ago and can say absolutely that he or she had closed that latch completely. And that might be all the indication you have that someone was in proximity to the aircraft, possibly tampering with it. Continuing around the aircraft, we notice that the activator on Sierra Mike for the rear clamshell doors is open. Should you just close it and think nothing of it? Probably a good idea would be to open the door and take a quick look inside to see if anything is unusual there. And again, as a team, talk to your pilot in command, talk to your other partner, and try to make sure that there's no indication that anything is amiss. Now, in our simulated walk around, the pilot is now getting to their door. They open the door and they notice that their helmet is on the floor and the seatbelt is hanging down, banging against the hull of the aircraft, and clearly did not leave those two items in that position. On further inspection, the PIC notes that one of the power control levers has been moved. It certainly appears that an intruder has been in the aircraft. The PIC is on the phone to the DO, who'll collaborate with the DOM and the AOC on what steps might be required to ensure that the aircraft is safe to flight. Meanwhile, medical crew members continue the check of the equipment in the back. Going in the slider on the co-pilot side, were those drawers left open? Wasn't that helmet on the seat where you always leave it? If someone was in the back of the aircraft, what else was touched? What about the rest of the equipment? Looking around the passenger compartment, on further inspection, you notice that the med bag is missing. There are soft supplies strewn around the floor and the stretcher. Clearly, there's been an intruder in the back of the aircraft and medical equipment has been taken. Other equipment may have been tampered with as well. A complete inspection of the medical equipment should be performed. What can we do to minimize the likelihood of aircraft tampering? Park the helicopter in a secure location one monitored by video surveillance whenever possible, or keep a member posted with the aircraft. Be aware of unknown people or vehicles in the proximity to MFC assets. Conduct a comprehensive walk-around every time before you depart, and communicate any unusual findings to the pilot and command as a function of good aircrew resource management.